You're listening to episode 197 of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Joe Trodden. Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hant, and I want to welcome you to Lifestyle Locker Radio. It is here where we talk all things lifestyle, from fitness to nutrition, peak performance to longevity, awesome relationships to inspirational stories. We take you on an amazing journey to all things life and lifestyle. Enjoy the ride. And for today's guest, if you want to learn more than they're going to tell you on this show, I urge you to scroll down, check out the show notes to get a detailed bio and everything you need to know about our guest today. We also encourage that you comment, review, and share this show if you are enjoying it from wherever and whenever you're listening. Lastly, we encourage you to check out all the links that we provide in the show notes. They are there for you, for your health, for your lifestyle. We ultimately want you to unleash your human potential. So dive into this episode. We'll see you on the inside. Hey everyone, Dr. Josh Hant here for Lifestyle Locker Radio. I want to welcome you back. We have an awesome guest. He's going to get a little bit into your mind. This is Joe, mindset coach extraordinaire. So welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, Josh. Really appreciate it.
I'm psyched to have you because we're going to talk about a couple of things. I mentioned mindset. He also works specifically with entrepreneurs. So for those of you that are listening that may not even have heard that word yet, for some of you that are interested in maybe becoming an entrepreneur, maybe you're stuck in a hole that you want to get out of, and some of you that are entrepreneurs, I think this is going to be very valuable. So make sure if you're not driving, take a pen and paper out. Maybe you're going to want to take some notes. This guy's full of good stuff. So Joe. Exactly. Right. I say I'll build you up a little bit. You better produce, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the pressure. Yeah.
The pressure's on. So let's dive back. What was the driving force that made you want to decide to become a mindset coach? Because to me, mindset is a very powerful, very important thing. A lot of people just take it for granted, or maybe don't even know they have a mindset. So
sure.
What made you want to go, listen, I got to do something on mindset?
So the journey for me was it may be quite typical for a lot of your listeners as well. Certainly a lot of people I've spoken to that there was that period of just autopilot through education. That you do the things, you do well in these tests, you go to university. I studied law at university. What a waste of time that was. Came out of that going, that is not what I want to be doing. I did a conversion into IT work because money was there, and I thought, hey, money's a thing I like. But then after doing that for about sort of 8 years, it was just a day walking into work, and it was the same route that I'd taken 1,000 times, and I just had my moment there of, I can't continue to do this. This is, what is this? I'm not supposed to be doing this. I don't really care how secure the server is today. It wasn't lighting me up. So, after that, it was just a period of exploration, I guess, for me. I did an open uni, a sort of distance learning psychology degree, because I'd always just had this thing about people's minds. And then various things there. I volunteered in mental health for a bit. I worked with a youth charity. I set up my own social enterprise, helping young people. And it was always moving towards this human potential and impact. My mission is to help the people in the world create impact, and to do that myself, obviously. And the way to do that is through people's heads, unleashing the human potential that we all have within us. So really, that was the journey. When you look back on it, it makes sense, but I didn't know what that end destination was until I started taking, the first step. And then, what's right about this? Okay, here's the change. Here's the next step. So that's basically how it came about. And then I went to work for an entrepreneurial accelerator, and the world's largest free accelerator. I worked with them for about 3.5 years. And from there, setting up myself, because there was a particular niche that I think are really interesting and that I serve particularly well. So that was why I left and set up my own business.
Okay. So you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right.
Depends on your definition, but yeah.
All right. Well, I guess you can be an intrapreneur and working with a business, an entrepreneur, but right. So you created this niche, and the niche is the entrepreneurship portion of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a specific group there though, because the guys that I work with are people who have come through startups. So they're typically two or 3 years in. They've got the thing and it's in the marketplace. But in order to make it through that stage, you've got to have a particular way of thinking. You've got to be able to deal with chaos. You've got to be able to deal
Mm.
with getting punched in the face, be totally adaptable. But then when you get like your first round of investment, like a first serious round of investment, you need to put more structure in. Like, things
Okay.
change. You need to sharpen your strategy. You need to move from being an entrepreneur to an entrepreneurial leader. And that transition is what kills a lot of businesses from moving up to that next stage, because it's
Okay.
quite an identity shift. So it's those guys specifically that I help.
Okay. So like I'm just gonna try to paint the picture a little different for myself and tell me if I'm correct.
Sure.
It's you're basically people have to have gone to go from the solopreneur, like the person, the man, woman that does everything, to
Yeah,
the person that becomes a leader where they can delegate other processes so they can grow the vision of the business. So that you're working with that second level, the
exactly. Yeah.
second tier, if you will. Um, but also, if we're going to talk mindset, let's just step back for a second. What, when we mention mindset, I know there's a lot of maybe
Mm.
preconceived ideas. What does mindset mean?
Well, I'll tell you what mindset isn't. Mindset isn't an Instagram yoga pose on a mountain with a
Oh
positive
man,
message. Do you know? Like,
I just posted that today. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
sorry, man. Um, look, I love a positive quote as much as anybody else, right? Because the language is really important. It gets you to think.
Mm,
But mindset for me is everything. Like, it's this entire cognitive map inside your head. It's about how you see the world and your place within it. Like, it's everything: your fears, your strengths, the way that you communicate. For my guys, how they're going to lead. Everything is wrapped up into mindset. So it's not just about, that be positive. Like, this is important, of course, right? But it's your perception of the world and
yeah. So
what that is and how
it's like
you
the
want to change
filter,
it.
right? Like I'm wearing
Sure,
these glasses, so
sure.
it's the filter which we experience the world.
100%. And then
Okay.
how you react to that, how you respond to the
Uh-huh.
outside world
Okay.
consciously, and what's driven by your subconscious.
Got it.
Mindset is conscious critical thought, but it's all driven by, well, not all driven, but there's a huge part that is driven by the subconscious that is just like an autopilot. And what I'm
Mm.
doing is helping people tap into that to understand themselves that bit more.
Okay. So if, for our listeners right now, I mean, we have everybody from, teenagers all the way up to your wheelhouse, the entrepreneur that's there and then beyond. We have those executives that are listening and everybody in between.
Sure.
We have a lot of athletic listeners. So if we're just to kind of paint the picture for everybody, or give them, I shouldn't say paint the picture is the wrong word, maybe give them a couple examples of how do you know what kind of mindset you may even be in? Because I know I've heard things like a lack mindset, a growth mindset. I've heard lots of different terms thrown around, and I'm not sure if they're just used by specific people or if that's something that's around.
Yeah, see, this is the thing about, so if you look at growth mindset, Carol Dweck's,
Hmm.
the person who's really started to coin that phrase. Obviously, it had been around before in various guises. But for her, that was about that everybody can continue to grow. You just have to face your fears. It's how you think about the
Mm.
challenges that are before you, how you react to feedback, how you react to failure. So that sort of terminology in terms of what mindset you've got, this is really your approach to life. So if we're looking at the high performers that I deal with,
Hmm.
I can't performance manage people. It has to be people who, I want to do a thing and I either don't know what it looks like and we want to shape that up, or I know what it looks like but I don't know how to get there. Like, there is something in me that is stopping me from
Mm.
taking that next step. And I think that's a really important question for your listeners about, well, what is that? If you consider yourself a high performer, if you're a high performer and you feel day in and day out you're moving forward and
Uh-huh.
you're hitting your goals, you don't really need someone like me. But if you are going, do you know what, I am not moving as fast as I want to move, there's a vision I've got and I don't know
Mm.
how to get there, or I need that to be sharper for me to accelerate towards it.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing to think about in terms of your mindset.
Okay, it's like maybe even like think of is it something like, if I'm shooting for my target or goal, and I just like I had this something internally that's making me pump the brakes that I don't
Sure.
even know. I don't know why. It's like I've tried to get this project done. It's been a passion of mine forever, but I'm doing my other thing right now, but I want to do this piece of the puzzle. What's holding me back? Is it my headspace? Is it fear? Like what is it? Like, and that's where you start to tap in and extract, right? Like squeezing an
Sure,
orange, right? We got to get the
sure.
info out.
And it's that feeling thing as well, though. Like, it's so important. The emotional side of that's so important. I'm big on the neuroscience. I love the neuroscience element of the different parts of your brain that light up and how all
Uh,
of that works. I find it really helps people to make sense of it in a practical way, so it doesn't just feel
hmm,
completely, out there, that it's really what's going on inside your head. But there is like an inexplicable aspect to the human condition about these high performers who want to achieve, have this impact on
hmm,
the world, and it is a feeling. Like, they feel they're not
hmm,
moving fast enough. They might not know it's exactly this blocker. Sometimes they do know it's fear, or I don't bring enough people around me. I don't build the right teams around me, and I don't know why I'm doing it. Sometimes they know what it
hmm.
is, but the feeling is constant. That feeling of, I am not moving at the pace that I want to move at, or this is not the right fit for me. Just like my epiphany moment. I mean, I suppose that was a series of moments over time, right?
Yeah, of
But it
course.
felt like an epiphany moment. It felt like walking
Yeah.
into work that day, this is wrong, And I wish I'd had a coach to, if I'd had the right coach at that point, I feel it would have sharpened me up. I still bumbled around a little bit going, is this a thing? Is this a thing? And I
Yeah.
didn't really get enough challenge and clarity that I think might have accelerated that journey.
Yeah. It's I think of other people that I've worked with, and just thinking about how this podcast has evolved. One of my mentors, and this was a mindset issue, like totally for me. This is, I think it's 2017. I'm getting ready to launch the podcast. I have the back end built. I have all of the tech stuff, which is, I won't say it's easy for me, but it was easy because I didn't have to do a lot of interaction. I can, email a guy, help me with my website, email a person, and this. And I have this big vision. My friend, my mentor goes, well, what's the high cost of waiting? What's taking you so long? This should have taken
Sure,
you 90 days. You're at 6 months.
sure.
And like, then he just said, like, he just pushed that button. And I don't know if that was your case. It was like a button that got pushed. I said, okay. And I was mine was a fear, full blown fear to ask people to be on my show.
Sure.
Right? A full blown fear. And what was the worst thing that happened? If I asked you and you said no, is it the end of the world? No, I have to just go to the next person. So I sent out an email to a lot of people. Like, I don't remember the exact number, but maybe like 20 or 30 people. And I think like 60% said, sure, we'd love to support you. And I was like, oh man, if I would have done this 3 months ago, I'd be 3 months ahead of where, I mean, but things
Sure.
happen for a reason. But it was that switch, right? That had to happen. There was something. And do you think that's the case for most people, as they're working with you? It's like there's something, and then it's like a button or something that gets pushed.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think it is that challenge. Like, I will tell people the things that they don't want to hear. And I'm not saying that I'm right when I do it. It's not for me to
Yeah.
go, you're doing this wrong or blah, blah, right?
Uh-huh.
It's more the case that when we talk, it's like, you're telling me this, but you're doing that. And I'm
Hmm.
holding up that mirror and going, and then whatever the excuse, oh yeah, I had this on, I had that. Well, okay, but listen to the excuses that you're putting down here. Do you believe them? Because I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
that element of challenge about that. But the point you make about, like, the fear and going out there, again, this is just part of how we're wired. That fear is going to come because the inner critic, that voice of doubt
Uh-huh.
that you're not smart enough, you're not perfect
Hmm.
enough, you're not working hard enough, whatever your own inner critic is, and it does tend to vary across different people.
Yeah.
Like, it's a biological thing, right? So it fires up your amygdala. This dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is where your self-monitoring takes place,
Yeah.
and then it fires up your amygdala, and before you know it, you're in that grip of fear, and you're not thinking through things, even if it's like a low level fear,
Mhm.
not the same as a snake comes in front of you, you get that high level fear, right?
Yeah.
This low level fear, and you need somebody to help you to cross the threshold, just like your coach did.
Yeah. So can you give some examples of, the, I don't need like specific names, obviously, of
Sure.
clients and people, but do you have, did you always, well, first, did you always work only with like these high performers, or were you working with like, we'll say a normal person like me first? I guess I'm not normal. Maybe a little abnormal.
Yeah, no, I'm a little disappointed you took yourself out the high performance bracket there. No, man. Look, it's about like, well, I don't know you very well, right? But
Yeah.
for somebody who's set up their own podcast and looking at the stuff that you do, I think it's fair to put you in the old, like my definition of high performer.
Okay,
Certainly,
fair enough.
somebody who's going out there, and trying to make something happen. But I did work with a lot of different entrepreneurs at the accelerator that I worked at, because we worked with all these different stages. And there are some guys at the early stage that would just frustrate me because I just didn't feel they were challenging themselves enough. And I'll tell you, Josh, this was my shortcoming in that role, because
Mm,
I could have moved people from like a 4 to a 6 or a 7, but I
mm,
got frustrated by them, and I would become
okay,
too pushy, and because I want to work with the one who's trying to move from an 8 to a 10,
got
And
it. Okay.
to be honest, I look back in that time at times and go, I did some people a bit of a disservice, I think, because I didn't have my own self-awareness to go, hey Joe, this person wants to go from a 4 to a 6.
Yeah.
I had my own thing of going, come on, let's go 8 to 10, 8
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
10. So I work with people at all different stages, and it's always been the reason that I've chosen to focus on this niche is because they've come through that startup stage, and I know what's going on. I've seen enough entrepreneurs. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly they are, specific. I'm not saying I know exactly
Thing.
them, yeah, but I know enough about that stage to go, your problems are that you're going to fear losing what you've got
Mm,
because now there's a thing.
yeah.
You're going to struggle to delegate, and you're going to have to level up your leadership and your strategy. Like, those are things that are always consistently happen at that stage.
Mm,
And it's about helping them to come through that leadership phase. So when we talk about high performers, I guess, no, I haven't always worked with them, but they're the thing that lights me up. And that's why I chose to split off
okay.
and do my own thing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, so the clientele there, the people that you get to help build, go from that 8 to 10 or 10 to beyond. They're the ones that have been literally hit in the face, been knocked down, have been through a
Yeah.
lot of the struggle to get where they are. And I can relate to this, and I can share that. I know a lot of our audience can. I went through training, if you will, self-training and programming for something called an ultra marathon, which I did was a 100-mile marathon, which I failed because I got broken body parts and also another story. But long story short, um, like, in order for me to get to that point, I had to cross a lot of threshold as a mental, as an athlete, but in our headspace, in my mindset. I mean, I brought a lot of people through this journey, and I know they can probably have the same type of experience anywhere in life. That when you try something and fail, or do something that you keep going for and keep failing. Like, I think, Joe, you're the perfect example of someone that would come in, maybe not for that person who's even a one, right? But that's where that mindset coach can really, I think, help, right? Like, that person is going and going, going. I just don't know what to do. Like, it's me. If I can't
Sure.
get to mile 5 and I'm shooting for mile 100, I can't hire you as a high performance coach if I can't get to mile 5,
Sure.
right,
Sure.
out of 100. So, for those that are listening, I would definitely see where you are. If you're an entrepreneur, this may be some, like, Joe may be a great connection for you, or not. I want you to really sit and think,
100%.
right? Because and he would be the first to even tell you that if you were like me 3 years ago, he'd be like, you're not there yet. You haven't been knocked down enough, type of thing, right? You're not there.
Yeah, and it's about, like, you don't need me at the moment. It's
Mhm.
not worth you paying me the money that I would cost you to move you to where you need to get to next.
Mhm.
There are other things. The thing is that I don't know what it's like in the States, but in the UK, there is enough support out there that's free to help people to get through that initial stage. Like,
Okay.
if you've got the mindset that you can find a customer, you can get a product to stick, there's enough free support out there to do that. And not everyone's going to make it. I mean, what is interesting is the type of mindset they need when they start to hit that level, or certainly what they need to build around them in terms of that structure, making
Mm.
sure they're leading in the right way. Those things hold you back at the early stage. because the people who don't make it are the ones who will then overplan and put the strategy down and try and be too rigid with it and put too much structure in there because they need to be more adaptable and take those punches in
Mm.
the face. So it's a really interesting transition as they go through that journey.
Ah,
And
okay.
if you look at the guys that I'm dealing with at the moment who are we're working on, it's not so much about changing them to put all of the structure down. It's how
Uh,
are we going to do that? Like, who are we going to bring in to do that? I'm good at building the structure, which is why I work with specific people. But then the phase that's after that, the chances are they're not the CEO of the business. Like, I've got people who really want to be the face of it, but not actually run all the governance and blah blah. You know, I've got
yeah,
people
yeah,
who want
yeah.
to be the product people. So when we talk about their superpowers, sort of identifying what it is that they want to double down on, that's not always maintaining a role as CEO. They have to lead at this point. But then the next phase, what does that look like for you?
Okay, so you mentioned that good word, superpower, which I love. Um, and I also really think this was crucial, but I never thought of this. You said, there are those entrepreneurs that may be at a level one, but they're already thinking about 8, 9, and 10, and it's just gonna hold them back from doing it. And that may have been me thinking of like that the last steps, like what I need to do versus like, all right, get a bunch of no's, like get people to reject you, get that process started, because then
Yeah.
you can start to figure out, okay, now at the strategy at the end at 8, 9, and 10 are very different than they were at 1 through 5.
Yeah, look, man, and that is so hard. Like,
Yeah.
when we talk at the start about like whether I'm an entrepreneur. I don't, like, in my own terminology, I don't really see it that way. Do you know, I see myself as a consultant and a coach because I'm not, I like building systems and helping working with
Mhm.
individuals. I don't
Yeah.
really want to build like the big organization to do that because
Yeah.
it's not how I'm wired. Like, I want to be a thought leader rather than, an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. I'd rather be in that
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
space. And the ones who, because partly because I crave the structure. Over my time through what I've been doing with entrepreneurs, that structure, and I love that. I can feel the buzz coming from that.
Yeah.
That structure has been clearer and clearer for me. And the guys at the start dealing with that rejection is really hard, man. And the more you are one of those careful, meticulous planners, the harder that rejection is because you feel like, oh, but I spent so much time, and I thought about all of these things, and but you go out there and see at the start of your journey, man, nobody cares. Like, no, nobody cares what you're doing as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And you've got to take that on board and like pivot and change and be so adaptable. So it
Yeah. So,
is a different mindset.
yeah. So that's interesting. But with superpowers, is there a way early on? I mean, is there like a strategy you tell people or something they can look up online or a book to read that says, how do I find my superpower? What do I know? Like, do I journal? Like, how do I figure this out?
So something that's become really prevalent to me is that people's superpowers can be quite hard for them to see because they take them for granted.
Mm.
The stuff that you are naturally good at. When we talk about mindset and your perception and the way you perceive the world, interpret it, and what
Yeah.
you put back
Okay.
out to it, superpowers are tending to do that on such a natural basis that you almost can't believe it's a valuable strength because you haven't had to do the 100-mile training to
Hmm.
get to that point. Like, there hasn't been this um it hasn't been like a weakness that's been exposed and that you feel. It's something that you take so much for granted. So when people are trying to identify them, a good place to start is a Myers-Briggs test. You can take one for free on 16personalities.com. If anyone doesn't know what that is, it's a personality test, but it's also really about like how you think, and the things that you are very perceptive about. What you find is that every superpower is like a double-edged sword. Like, every key strength is a double-edged sword. So I'm looking at that ability to handle chaos, right, as a superpower for that early stage. But also it means that when you've got people around you, nobody knows what's going on, right, because you're still operating in chaos mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then if you overplay it, then it's out of sync, right? So my thing about going in and putting structure around things, a great superpower, but too early on the journey, that's going to hold you back. So when you want to identify them, Myers-Briggs is a good place to start. It'll just open the door. And then if people want to go a bit deeper, you can look at Carl Jung's archetypes, which is what Myers-Briggs really flowed from. It's a much deeper look at that. The challenge around that sometimes is it becomes a little bit complex. As a first thing to look at, it can start to be a little bit more complicated. But if you start with Myers-Briggs, and then a key thing to do is to ask other people. Ask other people, hey, what do you think? I'm doing it. I heard about the superpower thing. Everybody's got it, and like, what do you think mine would be? What do you think I'm amazing at? Because other people go this. I was dealing with somebody the other day. We're talking, we're talking about like trying to identify their strengths and so on. And I'd worked with them before, and it's like, see, the way that you make people feel is unbelievable. The way that you make people feel incredibly valued, that you listen to them, that you help them to understand how they fit into the big picture, that they've got meaning. Like, that's a superpower, man. And there are some people don't have that. So I'm quite intense. Like, I'll find I make people feel off balance quite a lot because I'm challenging and I'm intense. Right, that's a superpower to use there.
Yeah.
But we were talking about a context where she was going to go in as like a number two in a business, because the CEO's off there fighting the battle. And then you've got her who's going to go in and just make sure that team, that culture feels valued. So, rambled a little bit there, sorry, but if you start with Myers-Briggs, if that lights you up and you can handle the depth, archetypes, but really go and speak to people. Go and say, what do you think that I am amazing at? And tell other people what you think they're amazing at. It's a great conversation to have.
Yeah, that's also a great icebreaker to get over fear, right? Some certain fears of conversation and even speaking in public. For me, I now love being on a stage. I hated it before, but having so many conversations, with the guests on the show, it's afforded me through experience that I love to have the conversation, and it can be fun. It doesn't need to be this fearful thing, but it's powerful. I've done what you're asking in a different way before with other people, and it's weird. I've done it with my practice, and it's wild what answers you'll get, but you're like, really? I never thought of that.
Right,
Well,
because
so
you don't think about it at all, right? You just go.
No.
And that person I was talking about was almost a bit like, well, aren't most people like that? And can't anybody do that? It's like, no, they can't.
Yeah. So I think if you're listening, this is a good starting strategy to find that superpower, because that may make you, if you're working with a company or in a company, that may make you a much more powerful person to help lift other people, because you've heard me say this before, all ships rise in a high tide. So if you're helping this organization grow and you're being an intrapreneur, that's also a huge win. Or even if you're an entrepreneur, this is finding a superpower. And I think you're saying they can evolve and change as you go through these different tiers or levels of.
Well, here's something that might be a little bit controversial in the old mindset circles, right? But if you look at, it's a little bit deep, but if you look at Carl Jung's archetypes, right? So there's these 12 sort of types of being, of thinking, and his positioning is that we are all born with them. Like, this is part of this collective human consciousness that we have, that we don't start with this blank slate, right? We've got these things inside us, and it's about how they emerge.
Okay.
It's a really interesting thing there about if you have a baby and you show them a film of like a snake and a film of a ship, their pupils dilate when they see a snake. So there's like a fear, like they don't know what a snake is, but there's this like innate fear response.
And it's one
of these. This is just one of these indicators, that there's things that are in there. Now, I can't prove that, right? You just have to, whether you choose to believe that and it fits in your worldview. But when it comes to your superpowers, for me, it is about like doubling down on the ones that you've got. See, if you look at that situation I was talking about where, making everybody feel, that team feel like valued and so on. Now, I can do that, but it takes a lot more conscious effort. Like when I'm actually in flow, which is a state for superpowers, it's like your brain is supercharged, your neurochemistry changes. When I'm in flow, it's not about like that level of sort of, I need to be hyper vigilant all the time, like checking my behaviors, am I doing the right things? You are just in it. And if you look at those 12 different types, it's just inevitable that some of them will resonate with you much more than others. And it's about doubling down on those. So if I look at my entrepreneurs, are they going to fundamentally change and start bringing in that structure and use that and develop that as a superpower? No. It's
Mm.
about how you put the right people around about them. So it's a little bit controversial in mindset terms. I am saying that you can definitely grow, but I would also say that you are born with a set of gifts,
Okay.
about uncovering them and taking them up to the highest possible level.
Okay. Yeah. So you want to build your strength, like you're saying, double down on those strengths, and as you grow through these levels, if we're saying it's a 1 through 10 level, you may evolve, and other things may show up as another superpower that may have
Yeah.
even been there before that you didn't even know existed, or nobody knew existed until you unleashed it.
Yeah, they can show up, but you have to feel it. So it's not like I don't believe that anybody can be anything. I
Mhm.
just don't believe it. It's just not what I've seen. I don't believe that people fundamentally change their that superpower. There's almost like polar opposites in the ways that people think and perceive and see the world, and there's like these adjacent ones. Now people tend to move in those adjacent fields,
Mm.
but I don't often see like somebody go to like a polar opposite. Maybe sometimes some big life changing event. I'm not saying it never happens, but I'd
Mhm.
say in general people have this range of abilities, and the further off you are from your north star, the less chance you've got of becoming world class, which is why it's so important to
Mm.
identify that vision and the superpower that's going to get you there.
Yeah, okay. I got it. No, I think that's important. I'm just thinking about my life now as you're going through this. I'm like, am I really pointing at my North Star? Like what's what's going on here? Because, and I think this is a great journey for everybody, regardless of entrepreneur, regardless of, 1 through 10, you
Sure.
know, figuring out like who you are. I mean, that's ultimately what this mindset thing, I mean, that I'm perceiving is what it is,
Sure.
and how you can leverage the best parts of that to become the best version of yourself.
Sure, man. And look, everybody's got it. The problem is that sometimes people are following a doctrine that says this is what good looks like,
Mm.
and it doesn't work. It's like every entrepreneurial journey. It's not like how can it be done. It's how can you do it. So like I work with entrepreneurs, and I've got one of them who is just amazing at putting the people together, but terrible at putting the structure, right? So I can get them hyped up and excited, bring them all in the room, and then everyone's going, what the hell are we doing? So keep
Yeah.
using that superpower. Like, don't try to do the other thing. Let's get the people in that are going to bring that structure round, because you should be going out and be in the face of this. That's how you're going to do it. I've got another one who's amazing with the product development. So let's keep using the products and getting people excited. Develop those. That's how we're going to sell, by talking about the future product
Okay.
ranges and how they're going to fit in. It's not about here is the map. When I work on strategy, there are certain like key things that you have to factor in, right?
Of
So you've got
course.
a strategy, but when you look at the entrepreneur themselves or the person, it's about how can you do it, not how
Mm.
can it be done. And I think there's too much of people trying to follow somebody's doctrine. And I'll shut up in a second, but it's not so much that it's certainly not that that person is trying to like force their way. That person genuinely, who's got the doctrine, that person genuinely believes this is the way to do it, and I want to share it with the world. But then some people can come onto that and go, well, I'm following this. Oh no, this isn't actually working for me. Is there something wrong with me? Because they were
Mm.
really successful, and I look at the Facebook group and everybody else is smashing it, and I'm not, and I feel like awkward. And so it's about these kind of pivots to understand yourself. This is why I've got like the short program that I've got is to say,
Mm.
take this low cost short program, because see if you don't buy into the tenets here, it's not going to be right for you. And there's no point in me trying to take you on a bigger journey unless we align with the ways that we're thinking at the moment. So yeah, I think I've gone on a bit too long there, but
No,
you
no,
get
it's
the
good.
you get the
I'm
principle, right?
yeah, no, I'm just thinking, I love to use myself as examples for this for people, because the best test dummy in my life is myself,
Sure.
or myself. It's not someone else's. Was I've looked at mentors that have superseded everything I've ever wanted to do, but their superpowers are very different
Sure.
than mine. So they were able to leverage their superpower to build things differently, maybe faster. Doesn't mean I can't or won't. It's just my journey is taking is a different route, and I'm okay with
Sure.
that. Like I've had to, like, I don't want to say suck it up, but I've had to just be like, okay, like I'm going in that direction, but I didn't have that skill that so and so has, or I didn't have the resources that so and so has. Like, so why do I have to beat myself up? Then I
So
just stop.
I am the world's worst networker, right? Because I
Yeah.
am a super intense dude. Like my opening question at a networking is, that type of thing. What's your life purpose? Or it's,
Yeah.
what really screwed you up in childhood? Those
Yeah.
those are the questions that I'm
Yeah.
interested in, right? So for me, going and trying to win business at a networking event, which is, one of the things, one of the sort of tenets that you go and do if you're freelancing and so on, just doesn't work for me, man. So me, it's about the right content. And then even when it came to putting content out there, making a conscious choice to go, there are people that are just not going to understand this.
Hmm.
But if you're at a level where you don't get what I'm talking about, I don't want to sort of like make that simple and sort of, well, not dumb it down, but like I can't take you on this part of the journey, because if I've got a 5-minute video, then I want to be talking to those guys. Do you know? And some of
Yeah.
the feedback was, oh, I don't think that's very clear and you won't understand that. Well, that's the message that I want to give out. And if that attracts a very few people who are the right people, then great. So it's
Yeah.
really that thing of doing it your way, which is what you were
Hmm.
alluding to there.
Yeah, totally, totally, and that makes sense, and I think that's very powerful. That if I were to try to copy one of your videos, it may have a zillion views, and I just kind of did my version of that. I'm probably not gonna have anything because I'm not being my true, honest self the whole
It's
time.
Look, man, it's no coincidence that you chose podcasting, right?
Yeah,
Even though you had to get over that fear, there's something in you that wants to like connect and share those messages with the world and do it this
yeah.
way. So I don't do a podcast because I feel that my podcast would be like police interviews, you know, because
Give me the
because
details now.
yeah, exactly because I've just got that level of intensity. It's different when I'm the other side of it, but it's like a coaching thing as well, and I'm always trying to
Yeah,
dig into that. But you've got to have your type of energy to do the
yeah.
things that you do, and that's there's something in you that has chosen that path, and
Mm,
it's only where you feel misaligned. So when you look about your own, you touched on your own North Star. Like when you feel it. You feel like, see what I'm doing here isn't right. It's like when I was in that IT job. When I woke up, I just couldn't. It was so far away from what I wanted to do. I had to make a change. Like I had to. It was the only thing in my head about this has got to change. This has got to change. Then some other jobs that I had, like at the accelerator, it was like this is close enough that I don't feel the discomfort
mm,
hugely, but I'm still misaligned because I'm not dealing with exactly the right people. And it just
got it.
takes stepping out and getting that reflection. So the hardest thing can be where you're in something like I had a job in a call center when I finished university, and
Yeah.
every day I thought about crashing the car, so I didn't have to actually go into that place. It's like a prison camp, but that was like the misalignment was so severe that I had to do something immediately. Sometimes the difficulties where you're a little bit too, it's kind of close, it's quite
Mm.
comfortable. So, you know, you don't make that leap to get right into the alignment that you need to get to world class.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. So for the people that are listening, I know you're the mindset for entrepreneur guy,
Mhm.
for entrepreneurs. Is I know you have multiple courses online, right? That you offer, and I know we have a
There's
special gift that we're going to give, and just explain what it is, and we'll explain how we're going to give it.
Well, there's basically one route for my guys. So there's courses in terms of the introductory course, which is just 10 online modules. It'll help you to understand more about what mindset is, how you're wired, get you thinking about your own entrepreneurial leadership. And then the stage after that is where we go into strategy. So then it's 12 weeks of let's sort out the strategy, let's really work out what you're like as a leader.
Mm,
And then after that, the journey is pretty much bespoke. Because again, this is what I've found. You have to, after you get to that point, people need specific things. So even like certain mastermind groups at that level aren't working because everybody's, still things are changing. Everybody's on their own journey. But the one that I have online that is designed for entrepreneurial leaders is the 10 online modules. And we talked about whether you're going to put a link, I believe, on your
yeah, we'll
podcast
put a link
notes.
up on the show notes for
Yeah, and
it.
the first 5 that come through that link, I'll give them that course for free, the first course, because it allows them to see, do I like the way this guy
Okay,
does stuff? It's
that's
got
a
to
great
resonate
gift.
with them.
That's a great gift, and listen, if you're an entrepreneur and this is resonating with you, as I imagine it probably would, and you're getting something from this, I highly recommend. Definitely, like, hopefully you'd be one of the first 5 people, but definitely check it out. I mean, it's something. Even if you're not the first 5, you definitely want to, get the intro, get the
Look,
learn a little bit.
Josh, it's such great value that it's virtually theft. You know,
Yeah.
you could be arrested here for how much value that you get for that first program. But the whole point of that is I've been shaping my offer is to
Mhm.
go, I'd really like to almost give it away to everyone for free. But I think that there's got to be some level of
Mhm.
buy-in. You know, somebody's got to
Oh,
say,
of
okay,
course.
I've heard something from this guy that I like, and I'm going to give a bit of a commitment. Um, that that's why it's designed the way that it is.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And definitely, like that old saying that we've heard for. I mean, I don't know if it's in the UK. It's like the early bird catches the worm, right? Right? Right?
Yes,
Like
yeah,
that's true. I mean, if you're an action taker, you're a go getter. You're gonna get the course, right?
sure,
Regardless if you're the first 5 or not, you're
yeah,
gonna get it anyway, just
100%, yeah.
because it's gonna create value in your life, and it's gonna create um, another conversation with yourself, which may then get another conversation with Joe if you're at that point. And it may
I,
redirect you to do something else so you can get to that next level, right?
I
Like
may, I may have to steal that line about it creates another conversation with yourself. That's absolutely brilliant because
it,
that's what your mindset and self-awareness is all about.
yeah,
That shift in
please. Yeah.
perception, and it's another conversation with yourself inside your mind.
Yeah.
I wish I'd come up with that, Josh.
Well, you got it now, baby. It's all yours. Use it. Use it. Use it or lose it, right? So everybody, if you're enjoying this, please, please, please go ahead and just give us a nice review, because Joe's going to appreciate it, because that means people are listening. I appreciate it. And that means it's going to get to more people. More people are going to download this episode. More people are going to learn about this, because this is powerful stuff. And I know Lifestyle Locker, we've gone through everything from nutrition to fitness and mindset, right? Like this is about life. This is not about just a thing. This is like the big picture in the world, and that's why we're sharing this message with you. So details on this show, head over to lifestylelocker.com/mindset experts, and you get all the details. You'll have the link for if you're one of the 5, right? That will be there as well. And Joe, man, this has been absolutely phenomenal. And we're going to end with this last question. If you had to
Sure.
tell someone to take 3 action steps today to help them improve their lifestyle and unleash their human potential, what would you tell them?
Take a Myers-Briggs test
Mhm.
and really look at it. Go and ask somebody what they think your superpower is and tell them what you think theirs is. The last thing I would say is just get some quiet time out and think about your vision. Like, what do you really want to do in the world? Go wherever that is that you do that. You go to a coffee shop, you go out in nature. Just give yourself permission to go and explore that, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Like the one you come up with doesn't have to be, well, that's it or nothing. There's a direction, and then when you start to take that, you'll come more into alignment and more into alignment. Everything starts to sharpen up. So that's my 3: Myers-Briggs, superpower conversation, and
Yeah,
sort your vision out.
got it. Everybody, this is Joe Trodden, Dr. Josh Hant. We are out. Thank you for listening. Joe, appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Lifestyle Locker Radio with Joe Trodden, a mindset expert. Holy cow. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're not, you definitely got something amazing out of that. I love the term superpower. Hope you all have had the opportunity to at least think about what your superpower is during this. If not, you definitely got to take a deeper dive into it. Make sure you do head down to the show notes, see all the details on how to connect with Joe. Go ahead and set yourself up for that virtual course. And if you're really involved and really want to know more, go ahead, head over to his contact information on his website, put your details in, use the code Lifestyle Locker, give the subject line, word the body of the email, and let me know you want to learn more. We also want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by the 3065 Lifestyle Shift Program. If you have not seen it yet, check it out in the show notes. It's for people that are looking to make a huge lifestyle shift. We talk about a philosophy that's seen nowhere else in online health programs. It's a physical, emotional, chemical philosophy. It's called a PEC philosophy. If you don't know what that is, go to the link and we'll just explain it all for you. So go and check that out. Once again, that was Joe Trodden, I'm Dr. Josh Hand. Have an amazing day, evening, or night, wherever, whenever you're listening to Lifestyle Locker Radio. Peace out.